Hello and welcome to the English Pod community. I'm your host, Myra. If you are new here, we post daily lessons to help you speak English with confidence and fluency. Today's lesson is 50 common English questions for beginners. Asking and answering questions is one of the most important skills in English. Questions help you start conversations, learn new information, and connect with others. When you know how to ask questions clearly and politely, people will want to talk with you more. In this episode, I will introduce 50 questions you can use every day. I will explain each question and give examples of how to use it in real life. The stories and examples are fictional, but created to help you learn. So, let's get started. The first question you can use is, what is your name? This is the most common way to ask someone their name. For example, if you meet a new neighbor, you can say, "Hello, what is your name?" They might reply, "My name is Sarah." You can then say, "Nice to meet you, Sarah." Remember, a smile helps. Next, you can ask, "Where are you from?" This question is useful when you want to know about someone's country or city. For example, I often ask my students, "Where are you from?" And they say, "I'm from Mexico," or "I'm from China." This question shows interest in the other person. Another good question is, "How old are you?" This question is polite when asked carefully. For example, my friend asked me, "How old are you?" I smiled and said, "I'm 30 years old." Sometimes it's better to wait until you know the person well before asking about age. You can also ask, "What do you do?" This question means, "What is your job?" For example, if I meet someone, I ask, "What do you do?" They might say, "I'm a teacher," or "I'm a doctor." This helps you learn about their work. To ask about someone's family, say, "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" For example, my student said, "I have one brother and two sisters." This is a good way to talk about family. You might want to know where someone lives. You can ask, "Where do you live?" For example, "Where do you live?" "I live in New York City." This helps you know about the person's home. To ask about hobbies, say, "What do you like to do in your free time?" This question helps you learn about their interests. For example, "What do you like to do in your free time?" "I like to read books and play soccer." If you want to know about food, ask, "What is your favorite food?" For example, "What is your favorite food?" "I love pizza." This is a fun question to learn about tastes. To ask about language, say, "What languages do you speak?" For example, "What languages do you speak?" "I speak English and Spanish." You can also ask about time. "What time is it?" For example, if you don't have a watch, you can ask a stranger, "Excuse me, what time is it?" if you want to ask. For directions, say, "How do I get to the bus station?" For example, "How do I get to the bus station?" Go straight and turn left at the corner. To ask for help, say, "Can you help me, please?" For example, "Can you help me, please? I'm looking for the library." These questions are great to start your English speaking journey. In the next part, we'll learn more questions about daily life, shopping, and travel. Keep practicing with me. Let's continue with more useful English. Questions that you can use every day. These questions will help you in many situations such as shopping, traveling, or talking about your day. If you're in a store and want to ask about prices, you can say, "How much does this cost?" For example, when I was buying a jacket, I asked the shop assistant, "How much does this cost?" She replied, "It is $50. This question helps you know the price before you buy something. When you want to try on clothes, you can ask, "Can I try this on?" For example, if you see a shirt you like, ask the shopkeeper, "Can I try this on?" This means you want to see if the clothes fit you. If you want to know the opening hours of a shop or service, ask, "What time do you open?" or "What time do you close?" For example, "What time do you open?" And the answer might be, we open at 900 a.m. Knowing opening hours helps you plan your visit. When traveling, you might need to ask about transportation. For example, where is the nearest bus stop? This question helps you find your way. I once asked a stranger, where's the nearest bus stop? And they kindly showed me the way. If you want to buy a ticket, you can ask, how much is a ticket to downtown? This question is very helpful at bus stations or train stations. For example, how much is a ticket to downtown? And the answer might be, it is $3. If you want to know about someone's health, you can ask, are you feeling okay? Or how do you feel today? For example, when my friend looked tired, I once asked a stranger, where's the nearest bus stop? And they kindly showed me the way. If you want to buy a ticket, you can ask, how much is a ticket to downtown? This question is very helpful at bus stations or train stations. For example, how much is a ticket to downtown? And the answer might be, it is $3. If you want to know about someone's health, you can ask, are you feeling okay? Or how do you feel today? For example, when my friend looked tired, I asked, are you feeling okay? She said, yes, thank you. This shows you care about others. If you want to ask someone's opinion, say, what do you think about this? For example, when my husband showed me a new recipe, I asked, what do you think about this? He replied, it looks delicious. Asking opinions helps you start good conversations. When you want to know what someone wants to eat or drink, ask, what would you like to eat? Or, what would you like to drink? For example, at a restaurant, the waiter might ask, what would you like to drink? You can reply, I'd like water, please. If you want to confirm something, you can ask, is this correct? For example, when learning English, you might ask your teacher, is this correct? It helps you check your answers. When you want to know if someone understands you, ask, do you understand? For example, when I explain a new word, I ask my student, do you understand? Understand. It's they say no, I explain again. To ask about frequency, say, how often do you exercise? Or, how often do you go to the gym? For example, how often do you exercise? I exercise 3 times a week. This is good for talking about habits. If you want to ask for a suggestion, say, can you recommend a good restaurant? For example, if you are new in a city, ask locals, can you recommend a good restaurant? They will help you find a nice place to eat. When you want to ask about the weather, say, what's the weather like today? Or, is it going to rain? For example, what's the weather like today? It's sunny and warm. This helps you decide what to wear. When you want to ask for the time of an event, ask, what time does the movie start? For example, what time does the movie start? It starts at 7:00 p.m. If you want to ask about transportation schedules, say, when is the next bus? For example, at the bus stop, you can ask, when is the next bus? Someone might say, it will arrive in 10 minutes. These questions are great for everyday conversations and help you get information easily. Practice them often, and you will feel more confident speaking English in daily life. Let's keep going with more common questions that you can use to speak English confidently every day. These questions will help you talk about your feelings, your plans, and your experiences. If you want to ask someone about their favorite things, you can say, what is your favorite color? For example, when I met my new friend, I asked, what is your favorite color? She said, my favorite color is blue. This question is simple, but helps you learn about someone's preferences. To ask about someone's plans, say, what are you doing this weekend? For example, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to visit my parents. This is a friendly way to start a conversation and make plans. If you want to know where someone works, ask, where do you work? For example, where do you work? I work at a bank. This helps you talk about jobs and careers. If you want to check if someone likes an activity, say, do you like watching movies? For example, do you like watching movies? Yes, I love movies. This question helps you find common interests. To ask about someone's family situation, you can say, are you married? Or do you have children? For example, are you married? Yes, I have a wife and 2 children. These questions help you learn about someone's personal life politely. If you want to ask about directions in more detail, say, can you show me on the map? For example, can you show me on the map where the museum is? This helps when you are traveling or exploring a new place. To ask about food preferences, say, do you like spicy food? For example, do you like spicy food? No, I prefer mild flavors. This is useful when you are eating with friends or ordering food. If you want to ask for clarification, say, can you explain that again? For example, can you explain that again? I didn't understand. This is polite and shows you want to learn. When you want to know about someone's health, ask, have you been feeling well? For example, have you been feeling well lately? Yes, thank you for asking. This shows you care about others. If you want to ask about someone's favorite place, say, what is your favorite place to visit? For example, what is your favorite place to visit? I love the beach. This question helps you learn about travel interests. To ask about someone's daily routine, say, what time do you usually wake up? For example, what time do you usually wake up? I wake up at 7:00 a.m. This helps you talk about habits. If you want to ask someone's opinion politely, say, what do you think about this idea? For example, what do you think about this idea for the project? I think it's very good. Asking opinions is important in conversations. When you want to check if someone agrees, ask, do you agree with me? For example, do you agree with me that learning English is fun? Yes, I agree. This helps you share ideas. To ask about someone's favorite music, say, what kind of music do you like? For example, what kind of music do you like? I like jazz and pop. Music is a great topic to talk about. If you want to ask about someone's weekend plans, say, do you have any plans for the weekend? For example, do you have any plans for the weekend? Yes, I'm going hiking. This helps you talk about free time. These questions will help you speak English more naturally and connect with others. Remember, practicing these questions with friends or in class will make you more confident. Let's finish with the last set of common questions that will help you in many daily situations. These questions are useful for making plans, giving opinions, and saying goodbye politely. If you want to ask about someone's availability, say, are you free tomorrow? For example, are you free tomorrow? Yes, I am free in the afternoon. This question helps you arrange meetings or social plans. To ask about someone's preferences politely, say, would you like to join us? For example, would you like to join us for dinner? That sounds great. Thank you. This is a nice way to invite someone. When you want to confirm plans, say, what time shall we meet? For example, what time shall we meet? Let's meet at 5:00 p.m. Confirming time helps avoid confusion. If you want to ask someone's opinion about a place or event, say, how was the party? For example, how was the party last night? It was fun and everyone enjoyed it. Asking about experiences is a great conversation starter. To politely end a conversation, you can say, it was nice talking to you. For example, after a meeting, it was nice talking to you. See you soon. This shows respect and friendliness. When you want to say goodbye, use have a great day or take care. For example, have a great day. Thank you. You too. These are warm and friendly farewells. If you want to ask about future plans, say, what are your plans for next week? For example, what are your plans for next week? I'm going on vacation. This keeps conversations going. To ask if someone needs help, say, "Do you need any help?" For example, "Do you need any help with your homework?" "Yes, please." That would be great. Offering help is kind and polite. If you want to check if someone has understood instructions, ask, "Is everything clear?" For example, "Is everything clear about the project?" "Yes, I understand perfectly." This avoids misunderstandings. To ask about feelings politely, say, "How are you feeling today?" For example, "How are you feeling today?" "I'm feeling better, thank you." This shows care and interest. If you want to ask about preferences politely, say, "Do you prefer tea or coffee?" For example, "Do you prefer tea or coffee?" "I prefer coffee in the morning." This is a common question during social gatherings. When inviting someone to an event, say, "Would you like to come to the meeting?" For example, "Would you like to come to the meeting on Friday?" "Yes, I would love to." Invitations build relationships. To ask about someone's experiences, say, "Have you ever been to New York?" For example, "Have you ever been to New York?" "Yes, I went last year." This question encourages storytelling. Finally, when closing a conversation, you can say, "Let's keep in touch." For example, "Let's keep in touch. Here is my email." This shows you want to continue the relationship. That brings us to the end of our lesson on 50 common English questions for beginners. Practicing these questions will help you speak English with more confidence and make conversations easier. Remember, the key is to use these questions often and try them with your friends, family, or classmates. Thank you for listening to the English Pod community. Keep practicing every day and you will see great improvement.